Get complete descriptions of programs, find playlists from your favorite music shows, listen to us via the web, or download archives of your favorite shows. You can even pay or renew your pledge online. By visiting kpft.org, you can also receive e-news sent right to your inbox. KPFT's site is the best way to keep up with your community radio station, so mouse on over to kpft.org anytime. This is commercial-free, listener-sponsored, Pacifica Radio, KPFT, Houston.
Welcome to Politics Done Right on KPFT. I am your host, Egberto Willies. This is the progressive program that will take the mystery out of politics. This is the program that will encourage you to make sure government becomes we the people. Whether you are liberal, conservative, or otherwise, you get to air your point of view. Give me a call at 713-526-5738. That is 713-526-KPFT. Remember, you can also send me a tweet to EGBERTOWILLIES. That is at Egberto Willies. Let us engage. It is politics done right.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Well, folks, welcome to Politics Done Right again. This is Egberto Willies, your host. This is a new show on KPFT 90.1. Happy to have you guys with me today. Remember, this is a call-in show. So let me explain what the format of this show is going to be, first of all. When we get here, we're going to talk a little bit about what's occurring, new issues or whatever that's occurring today. Then we're going to go into my blog, one of my blog posts. I usually have a well-researched blog once a week. So we'll go through that blog post. And after I get through with the blog post, I'm going to ask you guys to give me a call and, tell me what you think about it. Tell me what you think about what's going on. And you know what? As always, the show is yours. So therefore, if for some reason after we get into the show you decide that you want to take the show in another direction, the show is yours and you can do so. Now, we want to have complete, entire communication both by telephone. Again, that number is 713-526-5738. And we also want to have communications with you over Twitter. So you can tweet me at Egberto Willies, at EGBERTOWILLIES, and send me a tweet. I'll be looking at those to see if anybody wants to say anything as well. Remember to put at Egberto Willies in there so that I can know it's talking about it, and just give me a hashtag, Politics Done Right. The hashtag will be Politics Done Right. I'll pick those up and we can move on from there. Now, also, there is a Facebook page called Politics Done Right. Please go ahead to that page as well. And for the show, every show has the corresponding blog post for that, where you can actually leave me messages that I also will be checking throughout the show to see what's on your mind. So we'll be following all of that. But how do we start? Today is healthcare.gov's deadline, right? At 12 midnight, it's done. Or is it? The reality is not so. I was here at the studio talking to a couple of the young folks here who decided that they didn't want to sign up for Obamacare because, well, one said that the deductibles were so high, it made no sense, and 60% of nothing, of something that you don't have, doesn't make any sense. So that kind of touched me and made it that I wanted to make a few things clear here. There are quite a few people out there, and I'm speaking mostly now to some of the younger folks who look at Obamacare and they say, well, you know what? I am young. I'll pay the $95 fine and I'll be just fine. Young folks, I think it is important for you to have one piece of information. It isn't true. You won't be fine if something goes wrong. Yes, deductibles are fairly high if you go with certain plans. However, here's the deal. By law, the most that you could ever pay out of pocket with Obamacare is $6,350. And no, that sounds like a lot. But if you have insurance where you're paying $50 a month or $90 a month or whatever it is, your rate's going to be fairly low. The maximum amount any hospital can ask you for is $6,350. Unlikely, so whether you have it or not, it's there. However, if you decided to just pay a penalty and you get hit by a truck, something bad happens to you, you find out something else and you go to the hospital and you end up with a bill of $60,000. A 25-year-old with a $60,000 bill that doesn't have much of an employment prospect, guess what? That stays with you for life. That stays with you for life. So do remember that it's not as easy as what a lot of folks on the right would be telling you. Forget about getting that insurance. Just take the penalty. Come on, guys, it's only $95. And what's going to happen to you anyway? Ask those same people, if something happens to you, will they be there for you? Those that have been advising you not to take these things, not to take this insurance, will they be there for you? Unlikely that they will be there for you. They won't.
It's time for the weekly blog post.
Now, as I mentioned, the way the show is going to work, and before I go into the blog post, I need to make sure and tell you one thing. The show today is at 8 p.m. on Monday. Going forward, it's a show that will begin at 9 p.m. So please remember, Politics Done Right is now officially every Monday at 9 p.m. Central Standard Time. Okay. I wrote this blog a few days ago, a couple days ago, and I posted it at Daily Coast, and it got quite a bit of response. And I figured it was necessary it was a good thing to bring it here. So I'm going to go with it, and then I'm going to ask for folks to give me a call. 713-526-5738. Again, that number is 713-526-5738. And the title of the blog was, How Can Politicians Make Obamacare the Winning Message? Then I say, it's in the polls. Every day, Americans get up in the mornings and go to work. They provide their services to companies and corporations. In return, they expect a living wage. They expect that their work entitles them to financial security and healthcare security. For 30 plus years, both of those things have been eroding. When President Obama ran for president in 2008, he understood that the root of every American's economic security laid with ensuring every American would have access to affordable care. Every American should have access to affordable care. He knew a single-payer healthcare system was the most effective system. However, he was pragmatic enough to settle for Obamacare on Viagra to begin the codification of healthcare as a right. The reason healthcare reform has always eluded presidents of the past is because of ideological rigidity. President Obama minimized his ideological rigidity to the consternation of his left flank to get an imperfect law that will ultimately get improved. And when I speak about that left flank, I'm talking about folks like myself. We actually wanted something known as Medicare for All, single-payer system. In other words, we wanted to get profit out of paying a simple bill, but we'll go over that later on, and I hope folks would call and ask about that. Again, that number is 713-526-5738. This is something, a few months ago, I wrote a piece that placed this into context. The genius in achieving the passage of Obamacare is immediately evident after reading the transcribed talk titled A Brief History Universal Healthcare Efforts in the U.S., given by Karen S. Palmer, MPH, MS in San Francisco, at the spring 1999. That's right, back in 1999. This was still in vogue. Physicians for a National Health Program, PNHP meeting. The talk revealed the headwinds that have blown over every president attempting to pass some form of universal health care. Doctor associations, insurance industry, unions, and other groups have always created opposition in some combination that guaranteed failure. She described the reason for failure as follows. Political naivete on the part of the reformers is failing to deal with the interest group opposition, ideology, historical experience, and overall political context. All played a key role in shaping how these groups identified and expressed their interests. In effect, the very compromising President Obama has been knocked for are the compromises that allowed the passage of the Affordable Care Act. It was a running start that will need modification. The president is cognizant of this fact, and he stated that much in the State of the Union speech on January 25th, 2011. There are two polls out this week that seem to show opposite results. They were both taken in March. The AP GFK poll finds support for Obamacare falling to 26%. The Kaiser Health Tracking poll finds for the first time since November, the ACA, Obamacare, moved in a positive direction. Its net unfavorable went from 16 points to 8 points. That is obvious from both polls. Or what is obvious from both polls is that after 5 years, Americans are still confused about the Affordable Care Act. This is not their fault. There is a concerted effort by moneyed interests to misinform. They have been doing this successfully with many bogus ads that have been debunked at Daily Kos and throughout the ethical media. Republican opposition to Obamacare has been steadfast and continuous. Republicans have spoken with one voice. The lies they tell are methodical and believable to many. Because there is a real need for affordable health care, Americans know there is a problem. They do not know if Obamacare is the answer. They know that what Republicans are offering is more of the status quo that does not help them. The polls show that given those options, they are inclined to stay with Obamacare for the time being, meaning assuming it works. They have this feeling even as Democrats refuse a full-throated blitz on support, as opposed to. Obamacare is the Democrats' alternative to the status quo. The status quo bankrupts Americans and kills. If Democrats get aggressive not only in supporting Obamacare but representing graphically an America without it, they win. The poor wins. The middle class wins. The message is simple. Vote for those opposing Obamacare and you risk bankruptcy, financial insecurity, or death. And that's a fact, folks. Okay, I have Susan... Sam. Yes. How can I help you, sir? Hello.
Am I on, Egberto?
Yes, you're on. Who do I have the honor of speaking with?
All right. I guess never been called Sam before. I think you know who this is.
Okay, this sounds like John. You know what happened, John? There's a color code right here on the screen, and for some reason I didn't read the color code right. How are you doing, my friend?
I'm doing great. It's great to hear you on KPFT.
Excellent. Talk to me.
Yeah. I've really enjoyed talking to you on your internet radio show, and I just want to encourage anyone who's thinking about enrolling in the ACA. You still have a few more hours, and then once you start the process, you can complete the process later. And it's really incredible to see, all the success that the ACA is having, and we've been talking about it on your internet show almost all of last year. And, there were dark days in October and November, but now I think people are realizing, what a great push this has been, what a historic event this is. And, of course, I want single payer, but, this is still a great event. So many people are helped out, and I really want to see Medicaid expanded to all the states. That would be so great when that happens. I'd like to talk a little bit about a diary that's up on Daily Codes. It says, "The worm has started to turn. Republican pundit signals ready to detach ACA from Obama." It starts off, this is by Ned Sparks. It says, "On a day in September last year, President Barack Obama predicted to a crowd in Largo, Maryland, that one day Republicans will no longer refer to the Affordable Care Act as Obamacare." Here's Obama now. It says, "Once it's working really well, I guarantee you they won't call it Obamacare." It says, "Following that, the Affordable Care Act insurance exchanges surpassed 6 million subscribers at the end of last week. The Republicans' bellowing bluster about running against Obamacare is showing signs of losing velocity, and as we speak, diminishing into anxiety and dreadful fear." Now, this is Matthew Dowd, who was formerly in the Bush White House, talking on Stephanopoulos yesterday. He says, well, there is some signs of success, and for everybody who has criticized this, there are people who are getting access to it. There are people who are benefiting from this. But I think the question on this is, I think, first of all, the political idea about this is now being detached from the president. After all of the lies that were told and the attacks on President Obama, it's amazing that now they're turning around. So now here's another quote. He says, "Even if this succeeds, I think the president's job approval, where he stands in the economy, has now become more attached to the economy and less attached to Obamacare." Now, here's the rebuttal from David Fluff. Now, I'm not a huge Fluff
I know.
fan because, he likes to attack the social safety net, but he did run the campaign pretty well. And so here's his take on it. He says, "The law's working, and this is a seminal achievement. You're going to have, by the way, if you count the people that are going in different private insurance companies, Medicaid, children's health care, you're talking well north of 10 million people who have health care. Tens of millions who have more security. The law is working. I think the Republican playbook of repeal Obamacare gets tougher and more people get health care." And I'll go on to William the Bloody Crystal, and he was one of the main guys.
He's a dangerous neocon, yes.
Yeah, he was against Hillary Care because he knew that if this ever came into place, it would be so detrimental to the Republican Party, just like the advent of Social Security, just like the advent of Medicare. So here's his final quote. He says, "If Republicans run on repeal and replace, or really, let's say, replace and repeal, then it has to be done at once. You can't just throw people out." Well, I mean, people are already on it. You already have, like Fluff said, you already have around 9 to 10 million people that are already on it. This is already over with.
Actually, I don't know. Let me tell you, John, it's a bit deeper than just 9 million people. I don't know if you saw the report in the LA Times today from the RAND group, which actually found that, yes, Obamacare's amount of registered folks, by the end of tonight, it's probably going to be closer to 7 million people. But what they don't tell you is that you have approximately 9 million people that actually, during the time that Obamacare was having problems with the website, they actually went directly to the insurance companies and bought their insurance. Because let me just put a call in here first. Folks, remember the number is 713-526-5738. The number is 713-526-5738. And this is KPFT 90.9 90.1. KPFT 90.1. Remember also you can reach me by at Egberto Willies at EGBERTOWILLIES on Twitter, as well as going directly to the Facebook page, Politics Done Right. Let's try to keep this interactive. I'd love to hear from you, 713-526-5738. As I was mentioning before, John, it's interesting because the LA Times, the article that came out, and I have that in front of me, it's interesting in that this is likely the most comprehensive survey that's been done thus far. And whereas the federal government has most of the information relative to their exchange, which I think covers about 26 states, they don't have a comprehensive, well, they don't have that they give out comprehensive data as far as how the health exchanges from the different states are working and what's their performance. They don't have the private data from insurance companies that can tell them how this stuff is actually working. What RAND did was RAND Corp, they went ahead and did the survey and actually found out that by the time this is all over, we're looking at 15 million people that are actually taking advantage of the benefits, not to speak about all those folks that will be getting their colonoscopies, or the young people that will be getting their birth control pills, or all these things that are part of the bill. This is a beginning of Medicare for all. A lot of folks won't tell you that. This is the beginning of Medicare for all. And once we get there, it's going to be great, but it's going to take some time because, again, when you have concerted efforts of misinforming people, that is what occurs.
Yeah, the insurance companies are going to fight against that tooth and nail. And, that's going to be one of the next interesting things is it, to see what the premiums are going to be like next year, because, as many people, who are affected by the ACA, there was so many more that weren't affected, that had their insurance through their employer. And so I agree with you. We ought to move away from that system into single payer. But there's still going to have to be a massive, political campaign to have that done. But I think, people will see, like you were talking about before, that some of the premiums are still too high. It's great.
Right.
Medicaid expansion is the best part of this, in my opinion. There's so many things that are great about it, but the people who are really, in desperate need and really had very little hope of having insurance because they just didn't make enough money are being covered, and that's just fantastic.
Exactly. Let me keep you on hold because I want to talk to you about something else, but I want to go ahead and go to Eva, bring her into the conversation, and then we'll continue because there's some other things I want to talk to you about. But go ahead, Eva. Eva, how are you doing?
I'm doing fine.
Excellent.
I'm thinking about how Clinton had the luxury of triangulating.
Right.
I don't understand. There are senators, there are congressmen who are in completely safe seats. And what I don't understand is every time there's a glitch in the ACA, the right wing takes full advantage to say, see, that's why it's a bad law. Why don't those people who are in completely safe seats say, see, that's why we should have single payers? Because that will allow Obama to triangulate. Nobody is giving him that advantage. He's not the left.
You are absolutely right. And here's a magic, right? And this is, I don't know if you remember back in 2009. Back in 2009, while this was going on, a lot of us in the blogosphere, we were giving President Obama a very hard time. We were actually forcing his hands in a whole lot of ways. What we continuously did is we said we would come out completely against the healthcare reform bill if we didn't get the public option. We wanted single payer, but if we didn't get the public option, the liberal blogosphere was going to go berserk. But something happened. And you remember Senator Kennedy died, and instead of getting, and what we got was Scott Brown. When Scott Brown came into power, it made things a bit more difficult, and it meant that those of us in the liberal blogosphere had to think twice about whether we would actually go with the option that had no public option or not. And at that point, there was a fight within the, I don't want to call it a fight, but a heavy debate within the liberal blogosphere where there were some of us that said, let's cut the losses, support the bill, give the president the backing on this issue, as opposed to just letting the whole thing falter. Now,
yes. And at the time, for example, Senator Lieberman, the price for his vote was no public option.
Right.
And everybody thought, well, he's going to retire and go vote and go work for the insurance companies. I mean, senator from Connecticut. Well, but what it seems to me is that it would actually help Obama to have some push from the left when there's a problem with the ACA, because then he could triangulate. I do not understand I mean, that's why Clinton was so popular, because he seemed like the middle way.
Let me qualify that in one little manner, and I think I read that in the blog post that I made, that I read at the beginning of or near the beginning of the show, Eva, and that is, let's remember something important here. And I think, while, like I said, during the early part of the debate, the public option was the least we would accept at that point, but we changed. But here's the deal. Do remember, with all the triangulation that Clinton, or President Clinton, was able to do, he was never able to pass health care reform. The only president that the only president that has successfully done that is President Obama. So what I try to tell people is, and that's what I also said in the blog, is it is okay for us to be critical, but let's remember that the only way we got this done was that he found a way to, we call it triangulation, and in a lot of my friends, one of my friends, mostly the anarchists, they don't call it triangulation. They call him, they say he actually acquiesced to the anarchists. I mean, my anarchist friends say he acquiesced to the corporatocracy. In my opinion, it's not that he acquiesced to the corporatocracy. What I think he did is realize that once people got a taste of what it is to be able to be fully insured, in other words, once you get a taste of having healthcare security, you're not going to give it up. And Americans, in a lot of ways, we're slow learners. In other words, we take a lot, but whenever that change comes, it comes in an avalanche. You know what I mean? It really hits you then.
Well, this is why the right and the Republicans are so much against this.
Right.
Because they know once it's a fact on the ground, nobody's going to give this up anymore.
Exactly.
But it seems to me that those people who take advantage of every little glitch to say, see, this is why it's a bad law, should be balanced by those people who say, see, that's why we should have single payer. I mean, right now, there's a lot of discussion about whether the right mix of people got insurance, okay, whether a lot of the healthy young folks got insurance. And, of course, it would be much better to have single payer for this. But in order to make Obama look like the centrist that he really is, it would be better if there were a little pushback from the left and from those senators and congressmen
you're right.
Who are very liberal and who are in perfectly safe seats. It would be good if they gave a little pushback, because it would make Obama look more like the centrist that he is.
Exactly. You know, it's not. We don't have enough Senator Sanders in there at all. We need more of him in there. Now, before I forget, I need to give a station break. This is KPFT 90.1. Again, this is KPFT 90.1. Houston, Galveston, Huntsville, Goodrich, Livingston. Please make sure and get through us via telephone call 713-526-5738. Again, that number is 713-526-5738. No, it's a new show, but I still want to hear from all of you, so give me a call. You can also send me tweets at Egberto, Egberto, Willies, Willies, or you can go to the Facebook page, which is Politics Done Right. But Eva, anything else you want to tell me? What else?
Well,
do you?
The only thing I wonder is why nobody in the White House is setting this up.
I'll tell you
why
what.
don't they call Senator Sanders and say, "We'd like you to speak kindly of single payer so that you could triangulate."
He's been trying. He has a lot. I have a whole lot of my blog site. I have a lot of video from, and you can go to go to politicsdoneright.com. He'll switch you over to egbertowillies.com. The reason I don't say that is my name is a bit difficult to say sometimes, or for people to figure out sometimes. But anyhow, it is now, Senator. He's been trying very hard to get his point across.
Well,
now,
there are lots of people. There are lots of senators who are completely safe.
Right.
Take Senator Schumer, for example, in a completely safe seat. I mean, the New York is not going to vote for Republicans.
Well, I don't know. Remember they voted for...
No way, no how. I mean, the days of Republican senators in
New York
were like Javits and Keating,
right.
And that's like the 60s and the 70s.
Right.
But somebody like that could do a little pushback and make Obama look more like the centrist that he really is.
Well, we have this thing where, there's a lot of money in politics right now.
Well,
and what a lot of Congress people do, even if they believe what we believe, which I contend they generally do, they realize that their monies dry up pretty quickly if they are too loud in what they put out. So, I mean, the people that really have to get loud, the people that really must get loud is the grassroots. Okay, the grassroots has to get out there, and that's one of the things that I push wholeheartedly. Getting the grassroots involved, because I remember somebody telling me, and John can attest to this as well, saying that these politicians aren't doing X, Y, Z. President Obama is not doing this, and why is he not doing it? I don't recall the name. I think it was President Johnson during the civil rights of the 1960s said. I think he told, if I'm not mistaken, and I know I've heard John talk about this before, he said, Martin, when it was time to get a bill passed, he said, look, guys, you have to make me do it.
Sure. That was Roosevelt.
So it was Roosevelt. Okay, I thought it was Roosevelt who said that.
Make me.
Right. In other words, you have to, and that is where we have to activate the grassroots. But what's happening in society, in the country right now, is we have a populace right now that is so demoralized. In other words, there are several things that are occurring within society right now, and that is people are having to work so hard. They are having to work for so little. When they get home, they don't sit down and think about politics. I'm hoping that shows like this, people will be in their cars and just in passing on the station, finally get some sort of a oomph to go out there and do something. Because what happens is when you have, they always talk about slavery and that sort of stuff. What is the worst type of slavery you've got? The worst type of slavery you've got is when your mind is enslaved. And my contention is slavery was abolished carnally in this country. But what we currently have is mental slavery. And that is, people's minds are still in chain. You go ahead and you mention something like Medicare for all. As opposed to people feeling they have the right for that, the first thing they think about is what that's going to do to the profits of a corporation. Huh?
Well, the most important thing here, I think, is that people get out and vote in 2014
Yes.
the way they did in 2012.
Yes.
You can't just vote in the 60 presidential elections. We have to vote in the off-year elections because the off-year elections determine the 60 presidential elections, unfortunately.
Well, I don't know if you realize that what has happened over the last several years is because there are a lot of people who don't vote in the off-year elections, and because a lot of states, whoever is in control of a state controls the borders of districts, so we're very much gerrymandered. So in as much as
gerrymandered, and
right.
Furthermore, I mean, the Times had an article, I think, last Sunday's New York Times about how many states that have Republicans in the governorship and in the Senate, in their legislatures, are narrowing the time that one can actually vote.
Right.
A lot of working class people like to vote on the weekend.
Right.
So they're making that more difficult. I mean, there are a lot of ways in which they can make voting more difficult, but we have to push back. And that coalition that elected Obama in 2008 and in 12 have to go to the polls, even though it's an off-year election, and they're not passionate about it, but they
right.
still have to do it. And I think we have to encourage them to do it. There has to be widespread encouragement to do this anyway.
I agree with you 100%. Folks, remember the telephone number is, and I don't have a lot of you here today, so 713-526-5738. Lines are open, 713-526-5738. Tell me what you think. Do you like Obamacare? Do you hate? You know what I would love to have actually as well? It would be great if I got me a conservative to call up. You know, I am a friendly kind of guy. I would really love to hear why it is that, I'm assuming that you don't like Obamacare, the Affordable Care Act. I would love to hear from somebody on the other side of the equation that it's not about only talking or singing to the choir. I want to hear, I would love somebody to convince me why I should have some reason to change my mind. I really want to entertain that. I have some other things to discuss about some blogs
This choir is going to hang up.
Okay, thank you very much for calling in.
Okay.
And I'd like to bring back John. John, what do you think about what our friend Eva was saying?
So I think she made some very good points on just about everything she said. I do think that the Progressive Caucus is a really positive force in politics in America, and I think they kind of get denigrated sometimes by the left because essentially they have no power.
Right.
So they can put out a budget, and everybody knows, well, they don't have any power.
Right.
I mean, what does it even matter what they say? And so, you know, it really, you know, is important, like she was saying, to get out and vote. But you know, I think that I just really do want to emphasize that this is really a great moment. You know, for me, I think this is a historic moment, and I think it will be a positive. I don't know how much it's actually going to help the Democrats in the fall. I'd like to think it would. You know, you would think that would happen.
I think, John,
there are a lot of people that are really affected. Their emotional state is so ingrained into the propaganda that they hear that it's very hard for them to get have an open mind and to be in touch with reality. I think you see that with Ted Cruz today and the things that he was saying.
Well, John, did you see the Daily Kos article where Ted Cruz put up a Facebook page and say, people who hate Obamacare or whatever, give me your opinion? And it turns out that all the people that wrote in, most of the people that wrote into his page, they simply said, no, it saved me money, it saved my life, whatever. Hold on, John, I want to get to Lane, and then I'll come back again. Lane in Houston. Lane, I think you're hot.
No, my name is Wayne, not Lane. Wayne. W-A-Y-N-E.
Okay, Wayne, talk to me.
Okay. Hey, Obamacare is set to become one of the greatest things the president has ever done for this country.
Right.
Besides Social Security.
Mm-hmm.
I called a show one Friday, John Burke's show.
Yes.
And I made a statement to him at that time. That was... it was earlier this year, and I told him that once Obamacare got into existence and got started here in 2016, everybody in America will be talking about single payer.
Yes.
And socialized medicine. But what we got to do, what we as Democrats and the right wing has got to do, has got to push it. We have got to push it. We have got to stand behind the president. We cannot be wishy-washy here now. Now is the time. Texas is on the verge of something great. When these people understand that they have insurance and Medicare is going to be expanded, regardless of Rick Perry, regardless of what Rick Perry and the GOP doing here in Texas, it's going to happen. It's coming to fruition.
Wayne, we need the grassroots growing. Make sure and drop me a line, Wayne, at politicsdoneright.com, okay? Or just at my email, like Berto at politicsdoneright.com, because what we want to do is continue to build this movement that aids people. Is there something else you want to say, my friend?
Well, we just got to get it on the front burner and get it running.
We are going to do it. That is why. And before I was about to take on. Oh, I think he dropped off. There's somebody that just came on that dropped off the call. But anyhow, okay. Let me just say one thing before. It is going to take quite a bit, right? It is going to take quite a bit to move forward. Mm-hmm. But that's what this country has always done, okay? It has never been easy. I mean, if you take a look at the civil rights movement, if you take a look at the women's rights movement, if you take a look at the labor movement, all these movements had a whole lot of pushback. In fact, if you remember during the labor movement, a whole lot of people died.
Yes.
The corporations came out against the masses, the folks holding jobs, and actually killed them.
That's right. And you're absolutely right.
Exactly. So this is going to look. We are at the point, and this is what I tell folks that don't get it right now. America is going to change because America is I'm originally from Central America. Okay, where you hear all the commotions that happens in the middle in the Latin American countries, in the Caribbean, in South America. Mm-hmm. People generally react the same thing to the same way to the same kinds of pain. Okay,
right.
So therefore, it is a certainty that as income inequality increases, and that's I wrote another piece that said we need to stop using the term income inequality because a lot of times that sounds a little bit too technical for people. What we need to start saying is, as people start getting broke, as people start not having anything, they start having nothing to lose. And when people have nothing to lose, they have nothing to lose and they react.
That's right.
And that is where we're headed. So all those people that are against all these programs that actually help, that not only help the underclass, but helps the average person, all these people will actually save the country. But my friend, I need to go to Daniel.
Okay, but let me just say one thing.
Go ahead. Yes, sir.
But while the president, and when the president states that anyone that wants something in this country has to make him do it, in our actuality, he's asking for help. What that means is, if you stand with me, I'm going to stand with you. So here, when we say there's unity in numbers,
yes,
unity is the power that we, the people, the voting people, we the people of America have.
You are so right,
sir. As long
sir.
as we stand with the president, then what he says when he says you got to make me do it, he's telling you, you got to get out and fight to help me do what I need to do.
Sir,
I can't do it by myself.
Wayne?
Here's the other thing. Here's one more thing, and I'm going to let you go.
Yes, sir.
When you see people advocating to take food out of your mouth, then you should be very angry at those people because they're trying to hurt you and your family.
Absolutely so. Absolutely so. Thank you very much, Wayne. You're a great caller. And remember, drop me a line and go to the Facebook or Twitter. Drop me a line because what we want to do is we are building a movement all over this country. So stay with us. Daniel is next. But before Daniel comes in, let me tell you, I just got a tweet here that says, please, folks, not all Republicans are against this healthcare reform thing. Even the health secretary Bush supports it. Okay, my dear guys on the right, call in. Daniel.
Yes, I had a question about the healthcare system. Will the quality of healthcare change as far as like the medications and the quality of doctors one-on-one? Since there's a mass of people now getting involved in the healthcare, will that quality of one-on-one
care change? I love that question. That is actually an excellent question because I hear that all the time, right? People say, wait a minute, once you've made the case, once people have accepted the case that it is humane to have everybody in your country covered that every other industrialized nation has, once you've made the case, the next part of the equation that they say, but wait a minute, we can't handle all the rush of people that are going to come in. Come on, folks. Are you serious? Let's be honest here. The first thing that's important to note in this country is that nobody who needs immediate health care is left without it. I mean, they don't get good health care in general. If you run to the emergency room, however, you get care. If you break your leg, you're going to get care. You may not be able to pay for it, but you're going to get care. But who pays for that? The person who pays for that care turns out to be all those people who have insurance. So it's being paid for right now, and some of these people are still getting health care. What this program does, however, is even better. Because what it means is, whereas somebody used the healthcare system, the emergency room, as their form of healthcare, their primary doctor, that's how they are administered healthcare. That is gone. Because now you can use healthcare the way it was designed to be used. When you need to see a private doctor, you go to when you need to see a doctor, you go to a doctor. If you have a cold, you don't go to the emergency room, you go to one of these satellites that are building. I don't know if you realize around Houston, Daniel, I think you fell off, but let me tell you, around Houston, it's kind of interesting. You see all those nice emergency centers that are coming to fruition? Think about it. The other day my wife was telling me, she said, there's this emergency center here and this emergency center here. And I'm like, yeah, what these guys need to start saying is, thank you, Obamacare, for actually supporting free enterprise in the emergency care system. Nobody sees that. They just see what the caricature. They see the caricature of what the right has made Obamacare into. That's what they see. And that is what we have. That is why, when I started the program today, I said, what am I going to talk about today? Well, you know what? Today is the 31st of March. This is the end of, this is where the deadline for signing up for Obamacare. But not so really. Not so exactly. So before I continue answering this question, I want to tell folks, hey, folks, you have till midnight to just touch healthcare.gov so that you can answer that question truthfully that says, I tried to get healthcare but wasn't able to complete it. I tried before March 1st but was not able to complete it, so that you'll get another 2 weeks to finish the job and get healthcare. Whether you're young, you're old or not, do not buy into the fraud. What is being done right now to the American population is fraud. It is not only fraud, but it is evil. I want to bring this story up that I saw at Daily Kos. It is actually very important, and I also want to bring in John on this issue. But this is a very important story that nobody is talking about. As you guys know that here in Texas, our great governor decided that he was not going to accept the extension to Obamacare, meaning the Medicaid extension to Obamacare. Now, the right always speaks about the sanctity of life. So therefore, in observing the sanctity of life, what would happen to the sanctity of life when you no longer, or when a governor decides not to take health care for his poor, in as much as his state has already paid for that health care through taxes, federal taxes, and he decides he's not going to take it? Let me tell you what happens. Before health care reform, there were 6,425,000 people in Texas uninsured. After Obamacare, about 1 million of us got insurance. Now, there are some computations that's been made, and it says the following. And I'm going to bring John back into the conversation. I'd like to have John back into the conversation pretty soon. John. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, here's a number that really hit me, John. I'm going to give you the total numbers first. They took all the states that did not accept the Medicaid expansion to Obamacare. And it turns out that based on statistical analysis, there will be 17,106 more dead Americans because these governors decided they will not take the Medicaid expansion to Obamacare in as much as that has already been paid for by the residents of their states, and in as much as it would save lives. Tell me, where is the honor? Where is the morals? Where is the supposed Christianity in that type of policy? Tell me, John.
Well, I mean, it's awful, and I think this is the major push that, along with implementing a new minimum wage law, that should be pushed during the summer and should be talked about by Democratic candidates throughout the 2014 election cycle. This is what we should be talking about. We should be talking about a Medicaid expansion, and you're talking about the John Pear article. I got it right on my computer
right.
From yesterday. GOP's Obamacare spite means death toll for red states.
Right.
And and it's just it's awful. I think the total of the number of the that could have been insured by the Medicaid opt-in is 7,781,829.
Hey, John, I'm running low on time, and I want to bring in some more folks. Stay with me, but let me go ahead and get Teresa in. Teresa, you want to mention something real quickly?
I just want to mention that based upon what you said, I called a friend of mine who is self-employed, does farming, and I said, did you sign up for affordable health care? And she said she called in and she got in queue, so I guess she's expecting a call back to get set up. So she is in line to get affordable care just because
Because you called her, you
and
saved
did
a
it.
life. There's a possibility you saved a life. Let me tell you something, Teresa. It's interesting because what's happening right here in the studio here, there were two young guys. I looked at both of them and I said, did you sign up? No, not really, because 60%. And we went through the numbers. And then both of them said, you know what? Hey, I'm going to check it out. This stuff is serious. And what what the GOP is doing right now and you know, we're nonpartisan. We are, or we're not supposed to be on issues with medical issues. We should all be thinking the same. Well,
I do not want to go into a restaurant and have someone wait on me that doesn't have health care and can't afford to take a day off if they've got the flu.
Absolutely.
You know, I don't, you know, it's just makes sense that a rising tide floats all boats. I mean, I don't want someone, because of medical issues, out on the street begging. Does that improve the quality of my life or your life if we have people that are just kicked to the curb?
Not at all. But we could even look deeper than that. I mean, I don't know about you, right? But if I see another human being in pain, it pains me. I mean, that is why it's so strange to me when I see somebody who actually would deny these people coverage or look down at these people for some reason, or whomever it is that needs.
Yesterday I went to go see Roy Zimmerman performing at the Boom Boom Room on Yale, and as I left that concert, I went to get on 610. From Yale. I was going east, and here's this huge billboard making some derogatory statement about affordable health care. There are people that, I guess, you know, so much for compassionate conservatism. I mean, what is so wrong with wanting everybody to do some preventive maintenance and to be able to help themselves if they come into a situation where medically they need help? I mean, I think everybody should pay what they can.
Exactly. That's where ideology stumps morality. And whenever
that's why the person that in Canada that organized their health care, they got a presidential award. I mean, they were acknowledged for their contribution to that country. And so keep mentioning the website, keep mentioning the phone number, because I hope as many people as possible. I hope everybody that's listening will call a friend and say, go to healthcare.gov tonight as soon as you can and get on. It probably seems daunting to many people.
Teresa, I'm at a hard break. The show is almost over. Okay. Thank you very, very much for calling. I mean, and remember,
and we'll see you next week at 9 o'clock.
I'll be
Monday,
here
right?
at 9 o'clock next week, Monday. You just saved a life. John, let me get you to give me a quick closeout. I'm at a hard break.
Yeah, just really happy that you got this show, and I think people in Houston will really enjoy hearing you. And you know, I hope Obamacare, you know, continues to do well. And another thing, in Oregon, if you're listening in Oregon, you have another month to sign up because the website didn't perform very well by the state of Oregon. So
thank you very much, brother. Gotta go, folks. This has been Politics Done Right.
Thank you very much for listening to Politics Done Right. I am your host, Egberto Williams. You can personally reach me by sending an email to egberto@politicsdoneright.com. Remember, Egberto is spelled E-G-B-E-R-T-O. Change starts with you. 90.1 KPFT gives you information not tainted by corporate interest. Please visit kpft.org and contribute. Let's ensure continued access to real information and news remain available to all. Again, thank you very much for listening to Politics Done Right.
The Pearland Crawfish Festival happens April 4th through 6th at Highway 288 at Discovery Bay and Business Center Drive. Co-sponsored by the Houston Blues Society, the event features the region's signature Zydeco, blues, and more, including the Tony Vega Band, Trudy Lynn with Steve Crace, John McVeigh and the Stumble, Texas Johnny Boy, and many more. The Pearland Crawfish Festival is April 4th through 6th at Highway 288 at Discovery Bay and Business Center Drive, Pearland. You're listening to commercial-free, listener-sponsored Pacifica Radio, 90.1 KPFT, Houston.
Some say the internet has hurt the art of letter writing, but here at KPFT, stamps still get the love and respect they deserve. Did you know you could write to your favorite shows, request a program schedule, or just share your ideas on programming, outreach, and more? Quick, write this down. KPFT's address is 419 Leavitt Boulevard, Houston, Texas 77006. You can send a letter to your favorite shows in care of KPFT, kick your program idea to the program director, or give your pledge to our membership department. Even if you don't have internet access, reaching out to KPFT is as easy as picking up a pen. Show your stamps some love. Again, the address is 419 Leavitt Boulevard, Houston, Texas 77006.